We trust the lamb, not the donkey or the elephant. So do you have any tricks of how to steer conversations toward issues that are maybe a little more rewarding and get out of the, what did you do today? I went to the grocery store kind of stuff?
Yes. Well, actually that chit chat or this kind of like what you're talking about, the surface level conversations, those aren't bad. And they can actually make you feel less alone. And it's not, some people actually need to practice the art of small talk because it's not bad to do that. It's a great way to start. But what I love about what I learned about the 6 pathways is even asking a question about Tina on the volleyball team, you have 6 categories that you can ask questions in that will actually get you into a deep and rich conversation. For example, if I was talking to you about Tina on the volleyball team, I might move into a volitional question and say, you know what? Tina seems really talented. How did you guys make the choice for her to go into volleyball? I want to hear that story. You're going to tell me that story, and I'm going to notice, okay, there may have been a spiritual valence there. I could go spiritual, like, wow, it really seems like you guys had to discern, or, whatever it is. Or you might ask a question like, volleyball, it seems like it would be really hard on the body. Has she, I might ask about her body. Has she had any injuries? And then it was my turn to share. I might say, I remember that time I was on the volleyball court and had an injury, and it was really hard for me. And I remember how it really deeply affected my relationship with God. And before you know it, you're in a gospel presentation about Tina and Tina needing to choose to go to Young Life. And before you know it, you're sharing the gospel. They're coming to church with you. That got deep. It's so much easier than you think if you follow the conversational path. Now, don't laugh. My primary gift is evangelism. So I'm always trying to figure out, Jesus, how can you enter into this conversation, and where are you at work, and help me ask the questions to get to the heart of the matter. I mean, you can even do it over coffee, like asking someone why they chose a certain type of coffee. You would be amazed at how you can get to such a rich connection if you just keep moving down the pathways of connecting. Notice what people want to talk about, share your life, express concern. It's going to go deep.
I really liked how you did that, where you took the volleyball,
Tina.
and you took the volleyball as the topic that they want to talk about. Maybe they brought it up because that's what they did that day. And then you were able to kind of be interested in it, but maneuver the conversation to something more substantive. And maybe it'll be faith issues, or maybe it'll just be, maybe they are too invested as a parent in their kids' sports. And so you talk about what you learned about being invested in your kids and being able to let go of them, or whether it was Tina's decision or their decision to be a part of the volleyball team. So you start getting into values. How do you parent?
Yeah, core values.
That's your kid. I really like all of that. So with curiosity, believe the best.
Yes.
Believing the best these days is tough. We almost catch people in inconsistencies, or we almost look for them being hypocritical. And the way I have heard believe the best is like, what's the best interpretation? What's the best reason they might have made this choice? Trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Do you have any examples of giving people the benefit of the doubt, or how is it that we can be motivated to do that?
Now, this is really hard, and I'll be honest. One of my favorite teaching quotes is, we teach what we most need to learn. And this is what I most need to learn. Here's why. We're at a cultural moment where it almost seems immoral to believe the best. In other words, you're morally superior if you cancel someone, if you shame and have public accountability, which I do agree with public accountability for wrongdoing. And I do support protest culture. It has its place, public protest. But for example, I've heard people believing that they're in the moral right by refusing to invite certain family members, for example, to a wedding because they voted for the wrong political candidate. So you have families literally ripped apart, churches ripped apart. My students say they have canceled family members. They do not want to go home for Thanksgiving, these kind of things. So I really wrestled with this, Keith. I searched the scriptures. I looked at the social science research, because it seems like God loves the spirit of unity. And it seems like if you really want to affect social change, the best way to do it is to get involved with people's lives and actually have great conversations with them about what they believe. So believing the best means that you're always thinking there's a story behind why this person cares so deeply about what they care about. And there are values there that may actually align with your values. You just don't know it yet. So in my classroom and in my community, I obviously meet people that believe vastly different things than I do about almost every social issue. And yet I'm able to say to them, I know you care a lot about this. I would love to hear the story about when you first became passionate about this issue.
Hmm.
And it turns out nobody wakes up and wants, it is very rare that someone wakes up wanting to be evil and harm people. So believing, even though like we're all sinners in need of salvation, most people are trying to do their best. And so believing the best is in the social science research called unconditional positive regard, which if you're a Christian, that sounds a lot like, unconditional love of God, God's grace, his the unmerited favor we have. I try to extend that to other people, and think there's a story there. They are trying to do their best. They believe that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
They believe that they are being good. So my job is to find out, tell me more. I want to know this about you. I want to get close to you and learn from you. And then guess what? That person will learn from you and ask about your positions. And suddenly nobody's in a reactive brain state anymore. They're in what researchers call a responsive brain state. Everyone's calm, and you're more likely to change your mind in a responsive brain state. So if you care about changing someone's mind, you're not going to get far if you mock and cancel them.
Right. I completely agree with that. That if you're willing to build a friendship with people, you will learn why they're doing what they're doing. I had an educator in our community who everybody respects. She's held all kinds of different positions of leadership in our school system. And one time we were doing a little seminar for teachers at our church, and she said she wasn't claiming this is unique to her. I'm sure this is passed around in education circles, but I heard it from her. She said, every behavior makes sense in its context. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, that's true. It doesn't mean every behavior is right, or you would want to condone or support every behavior, but you understand how it came about. If you understand where that person came from, maybe what their home life is like, how they grew up, what values they were taught. And so I think when you get to know people, you understand the context that shapes their beliefs and or shapes their behaviors or whatever. I remember reading a book by Alex Haley about Malcolm X. I don't know if you ever read that, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And, I've always had this idea of Malcolm X being this kind of hater, this activist, angry, belligerent. And when you read the book and you understand how he grew up, you start going, well, if I grew up that way, I might have done some of the things and said some of the things that he did. And again, it doesn't mean that you agree with them, but it does mean that you understand them, and maybe you can even influence them, or maybe you let them influence you. Maybe it should be that way. So you also talk about sharing your life. This is the last of the mindset I want to cover. Sometimes I think it's hard for us to share our lives with people, but if we don't share our life, people aren't going to share their life with us, right? I mean, nobody wants that to be a one-way street. It's got to be mutual.
Right. That's right. I was not good at sharing my life. And part of the reason why is I wasn't self-aware enough to know what I was going through. I wasn't a very self-reflective person. So now I like to always know, and this is also what I ask other people about, what are the major stressors? What thought is keeping me up at night that I need to talk about? And then I like the volitional category, knowing what the major decisions are that are coming next. So when my friend said, after we've shared a while and she says, okay, what's been on your mind, which is my favorite question, the cognitive, when someone says, Heather, what have you been thinking about? I just love that question. I have to be able to have an answer. I have to share my life. The other reason I didn't share my life was arrogance. I thought I was selective because I was snobby. I thought, well, why does this person get my story? You know what I mean? It was deeply rooted in sin and exalting myself over other people. So no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, no matter what level of education you have, I will share my life with you. I used to be terrible at that. Now I love it. It's a way of honoring someone. It's a gift to share your story. And so whenever I can, I want to do that. So
don't you think a lot of people won't share their life almost for the opposite reason, or at least it appears opposite? Maybe it has a lot in common with what you said, but they're insecure. Like if the person knows the real me, if they know my story, they will reject me or judge me.
That's why believing the best is such a key mindset.
Right. Because you're not going to
open up.
That
and you've got to express liking. The Yale Relationship Lab talks about this. It's not enough to just feel it in your heart that you are believing the best. If you're with someone who's insecure and not sharing their life, you have to express what's called liking. So I regularly say to people that I can tell are nervous around me, I'll say, I am loving spending time with you. I just want you to know I really like being with you and I really love talking to you. Just say a word, express liking, remind them of a great memory you have of them, or compliment them on something that you respect about them. And then that will help. That's a closeness enhancing behavior that will encourage them to share their life.
Hey, I'm Keith. Thanks for watching the video. If you're interested in ending tribalism like we are, we have a podcast and a book. Both are called Truth Over Tribe. You can listen to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, and you can get the book off Amazon. I hope you'll check them out.